I'm going to take about 5 minutes to explain this next slide, and then you're going to break up and you're going to start working on an exercise. Okay? And also, the Baader group wants to know that they have refreshments for you. So what we're suggesting is when you get the exercise, get up, grab a sandwich, you know, soda, whatever. Bring it back in here. Don't stay out there unless you're working. Not socializing. Entrepreneurs work hard. And you know, have some food and refreshments and start working on this exercise. And I'm going to circulate around to help everyone if you don't understand it. So what we're going to do the exercise on, and I'm going to skip doing this video that's posted on the slide, and just to save some time, is talk about how you assess an opportunity. So I have up there 5 key criteria that we look at to assess a business opportunity. And the first criteria you see is durable. And I'm not sure whether you understand this word in English, but can anyone say what they think it means? Pardon? Continuous, meaning sustainable. So in other words, it's not what we call a flash in the pan. It's not here today, gone tomorrow. It's the basis, it's the platform to grow a large, successful company. Timely. What's the trend that's influencing your business? How do you know that your venture is timely? I talked to you about a failure I had. We were ahead of our time, so we were not timely. We thought we were timely, but we were not timely. So you have to look at what assumptions suggest that your venture is timely. For example, if you started thinking about mobile applications before there was a strong base of installed smartphones, you would spend a lot of money, but yet there's not enough smartphones for people really to buy your product. So there has to be enough of an installed base to buy the product. I just finished reading a case study on a company called ImView that makes avatars for the web. And when they first started, their sales were abysmal because nobody really knew what an avatar is. You in the cloud. It's you in a game becoming a personality and a person different from yourself. It's a 3D character that you create. You decide what clothes you're going to wear. You decide what face you're going to have. You decide what behaviors it's going to execute, and you place this avatar within a game. When they started this business, they were very far ahead of the curve. Creative or adds value. Does this business add value? In other words, are the dollars expended worth more than what you're getting from the particular platform, product, etc., or is it allowing you to do something that you couldn't do before? Offer sustainable competitive advantage. Sustainable competitive advantage means that you have a way to differentiate yourself in the market that can sustain an advantage over your competitors. Sometimes there's a venture capitalist I've worked with. Venture capitalists are people who invest in early stage ventures, who says, I like you to have an unfair advantage. In other words, a disruptive technology, something that gives you a sustainable way to compete against your customers. And finally, the economics are rewarding and the economics are forgiving. Quick example. One key economic of a business is gross margin. Anyone know what gross margin is? Anyone want to say what gross margin is? Okay.
Product selling minus product cost.
It's product selling minus product costs, exactly. In other words, it does not take into account the heat, the lights, the administrators, everyone who is in general and administrative staff. It's here's sales and how much we sold. Here's how much it directly costs to produce the product. Now let me give you an example of what we mean by forgiving economics. If I start a company and it has a 10% gross margin, and all of a sudden I mispredict the expenses in the business, and expenses rise by $1, how much do I need in sales to cover the $1 expense? $10. Everyone understand that? A 10% gross margin means that if you mispredict your expenses by $1, you've got to go out and find 10x sales to cover that. What is the thesis? You need high gross margins. Very high gross margins. Why? Because in every new venture, the rule of thumb is it's going to take twice as long and it's going to cost twice as much money. You always mispredict your expenses. So if you start out with low gross margins and you're entering a low gross margin business, it's extremely difficult to recover from changes in the economy that cause expenses to rise, etc. You want, at a minimum, we talk about a high potential venture has 40 to 70% gross margins. 20% gross margins, you need 5x sales to cover a $1 increase in sales. Some software companies have 100% gross margin. So high gross margins are what are needed for high potential ventures. Now you can look at supermarkets and places like that. They operate on extremely thin gross margins, very low gross margins, which means if you're a manager in a business like a supermarket or a restaurant, it's detail. It's extensive knowledge of your cost structure and managing your cost structure, because if you can't manage your cost structure, you'll be out of business. So that's why it's very difficult to be a very strong operator, for example, in the supermarket industry. Now the staff here is going to hand out an exercise, and this is what I want you to do. The exercise, the very first page of the exercise, has a 2x2 matrix with an x-axis and a y-axis. And you'll see the values on the x-axis and the y-axis. What I want you to do is think about your venture and just place a check mark in the box, one of 4 boxes, 4 quadrants, where you think your venture idea exists. And write down the concept for your venture idea in that box. I'm not going to tell you the box that's a high potential venture. I'm going to tell you that after you finish the exercise, okay? And I will explain to you the quadrants if you don't understand them. Then when you turn to the second page, you'll see all the criteria that I just put up there, and you'll see a space. And what I want you to do is write in that space the assumptions that you've currently made that tell you that you have durability, that it's timely, that it adds value, etc. Just write down the sentences that say what the assumptions are. If you don't have an idea, here's my suggestion. Take an existing product. If you like a particular product and it's been the basis for a large company, startup, and you just want to process, now why is that the case? Use that idea. Use somebody else's idea in the room. So join a group of people in which somebody else is going to talk about their idea and you're going to work with them on their idea. So we're going to get started and get up and get some refreshments, sit down, and I'll give you about 20, 25 minutes to finish this up, and then we'll try to debrief it, okay? Any questions before we start? Okay, thanks. Oh, yes. Yes? I can't hear you. Yes, you should do it in, you can divide up into 2-person groups, 3-person groups, however you want to divide it up. It's up to you. I'm probably hard to track, aren't I? Because I move around a lot. I'm not real good at standing still. Remember to get up and get some food because they've prepared it for you. Can I just move past you?
الآن في فترة الاكسرسايز نفسه إذا في أحد ترى برا في ساندويتش وفي بيبسي وسفن يعني ريفرشمنت يعني فخليكم لا كنا لا خاص فإذا أحد يطلع على أساس ياخذ في الفري يعني ما عندكم مشاكل. أوكي يلا لا تكون.
You're all so far back here, it's hard to interact with you. Markets is markets that have a size of 100 million on up. It's a large enough market that you can play in. 100 million, really what you want, ideally, but when I work in regions like this, Saudi has either very big businesses, which are very difficult. The idea after this exercise is if you got a real idea, go out and find what the market size is. Do the predict because you don't know who's buying the product, you don't know the size of the market, or it's less than 20 million in sales, which means that there's going to, if you put it in the left-hand side, you believe it's going to be greater than 100 million in sales. It has the potential to reach greater than 100 million in sales. If you went to the other side, you would say this business would be having a difficult time getting to 20 million in sales. Everyone with me? Okay, now you look at the x-axis, which the other two quadrants. You've got something that's a known concept. So I want to start a Saudi restaurant. Known concept. I want to start a pizza shop. Known concept. I want to start a computing software to work with words, to compete with Microsoft Word. Known concept. The cell below that says novel concept, new to the world concept. The iPad, no one ever has had it before. Novel idea. So then you're saying, is my novel idea, could I reach 100 million more in revenue with my novel idea? Or could I only reach 20 million with my novel idea? If I have a known concept, can I reach 100 million or more in revenue with my known concept? If I'm Chili's, Chili's is nothing special. It's a restaurant. It reached more than 100 million in sales, but it was a known concept. They don't serve anything that's novel. They serve chicken, they serve burgers. Everybody knows what it is. If you think you can get to 100 million with your concept, then you put your concept in that box. If you think your concept is known, but it's not going to generate those types of sales, then you're going to put your concept in the other box. When you turn to the next page, you're going to see all the criteria that I just went over. And you're going to write why you believe your business satisfies this criteria. And right now, because you haven't, either for the first page or the second page, you haven't done the homework, unless you came here having done the homework. So you're taking just a guess. But remember, when you leave here, you should really determine it, because those 5 criteria are going to be how you're going to pitch your opportunity. You're not going to pitch it by talking about each criteria, but in the text, in the way that you speak about your business, you're going to talk about why it has sustainable competitive advantage. You're going to talk about why it's durable. You're going to talk about why it's timely. So what you want to write in those boxes, why do I think this thing is durable? Why do I think this thing is timely? Why do I think it has forgiving economics? And you're going to write your assumptions down. And I don't want you to go to the second exercise yet. Just do 1.1 and 1.2. Anyone have any questions? Yes.
In terms of group debate, each one has a different idea and discuss with each other? Or
You can do it however you want to do it. If you want to have each person help one another, work on their idea, you can do it that way. If 4 people want to work on one idea, you can do it that way. And if you just want to do the exercise to learn more and you don't have any ideas, take a look at an idea that you're aware of and try to work through the exercise. I just want to, you may not be done with the exercise, but I want to go over some things for you. Okay, I want to talk about these cells. Where do you think is the high potential opportunity cell? What characteristics does it have? Yes. Small and no. Do you know, does anybody know what we call small and novel? A black hole. We call it a black hole, meaning that you're going to drop money into it and it's going to go away. Because you've got such a novel concept that nobody is interested in it, and it's not going to generate enough sales to pay back your investors. So where's the high potential venture? Big and novel. Big and novel is the high potential venture. Potential. The other cell that you just mentioned, which is known and greater than 100 million in sales, are markets that allow you to grow a large business, but they're highly, highly competitive markets with lots and lots of entrants, low barriers to entry, and easy to start a company. Restaurants, retail stores, small retail stores, etc. If you're successful, if you, for example, clothing brands. If you start a clothing brand and you're successful, you can achieve greater than 100 million in sales. But take a look at how many clothing brands you're going to have to displace in order to get there. So that is, you can generate a big business, but you're going to have to build a brand. And building a brand in those types of markets takes huge advertising expenses, huge marketing communication expenses, lots of sales distribution, etc. In mobile applications, in high technology businesses, you can enter a large market with smaller resources and you can become a large company. Google. Google was a very novel idea. There were search engines, but they had a superior algorithm. They completely, you probably don't even know. Do you know the name Alta Vista? Alta Vista was a leading search engine. Yahoo was a leading search engine. Those search engines don't get any traffic now compared to Google. It's completely monopolized the search engine business. Why? Because they built an algorithm that gives you far superior results. Where do most small businesses sit? Known and small revenue potential. A barber shop, a hair cutter, a baker, you know, small businesses, most of the small businesses, a small accounting firm, a small law firm, not able to achieve revenues in excess of $20 million, but can be a very good, what we would call, that cell would be called lifestyle businesses. So in other words, there's nothing wrong with them. They're lifestyle businesses, which means that they're going to probably give you a generous lifestyle. But they're not going to be wealth creators for other individuals. And in order to raise money from venture investors, you just can't create wealth for yourself. You have to create wealth for others. You have to create wealth for your employees, because talented employees in high potential businesses want a piece of your business. They want stock options. If they're making a contribution of their blood, sweat, they want to know that when the business succeeds, they have a part of it. So there's not enough wealth to go around in a small business, which is why most small businesses are family owned, because they support the lifestyle of the family. On the second page, what I wanted you to do is write down all your assumptions that say why you think your business is durable, why you think your business is timely. Why do you want to do this? Because when an investor approaches you about your business, they're going to point out all of these things. They're not going to say, did you look at exercise 1.2? They're just going to ask you a series of questions. And you're going to have to answer all those questions. And in order to answer all those questions, you're going to have to turn assumptions into knowledge. We call incremental learning, or discovery-driven planning, is a process of reducing the assumptions to knowledge ratio. If you have assumptions up here, you got 100 assumptions when you start your business, and you got 2 pieces of knowledge. Your job is to take the 100 and put them on the denominator. Have very few assumptions left and have lots of knowledge. How do you do that? you got to get outside. You got to get outside the computer. You can't sit in your room and develop a business plan never talking to people. You got to go out there and test your assumptions. You've got to go out there and introduce a prototype product. We call it now, by the way, I'd highly recommend a book called The Lean Startup. The Lean Startup by a guy named Eric Ries. It's now a New York Times bestseller. His last name is spelled R-I-E-S. He talks about how to start a technology company, or really any company, using very few resources that can give you a lot of learning quickly, because that's what you got to do. Who has questions? Yes?
It seems that you don't really support... It seems that you don't really support small known businesses, and that...
That I don't support him?
I mean, not that you don't support them, but that you're leaning towards
high potential businesses.
High potential, novel, and at this level, only really capable of startups or just very small ideas that we're going to start with. So, do you recommend that we try to always find investors and venture capitalists?
No, no, because as I said, there are lots and lots of solid small businesses that can make you a wealthy man. It's what you want. Most technology companies cannot survive as a small business. So in other words, there really is no such thing as a highly successful technology company that's a small business, and this is a program around technology entrepreneurship. Most companies that deal with technology that are small businesses are typically service businesses. So we service networks. We service computers. We provide technical support to companies that sell laptops, etc. But technology-based businesses don't typically stay, they can't stay small. The reason why is because it takes more than $20 million in capital to get that business even going. So your $20 million in sales is never going to be able to give me, as an investor, what's called an exit strategy. And venture investors want an exit. Typically, small businesses use 3 kinds of capital. We call them the 3 Fs. They use family capital, they use friends capital, and they use fools capital. Fools are people that shouldn't be investing in a business because they don't know enough about the business. Technology companies require venture investors with large portfolios of cash that syndicate transactions and build those companies. So there's no such thing as a small biotechnology company. No such thing as a small, I mean, there is when it's small, but it can't survive in the marketplace being small. So I'm not trying to discourage you from starting a small business. My family started small businesses. Reason why I went through college, I had a roof over my head, I wore decent clothes, was because my family, my father didn't run a business that was 100 million in sales. He ran businesses that were 5 million in sales, 10 million in sales. So there's nothing wrong with a small business. But we're here to teach about technology businesses. So this is not a program about how to start a restaurant, how to start a supermarket. It's a program about how to take discoveries and technology and convert it into businesses. Did I answer your question? Yes?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you can elaborate more on the summer program that's offered by Stanford and leading universities.
Not offered by Stanford, offered by UC Davis.
Yeah, I mean the others as well. That's well known in the industry.
What I would say is if you have the resources to go to one of those programs, they're excellent. They will cover all of this and more because this is only less than 4 hours. So all I'm here to do is whet your appetite, give you a little passion, help to inspire you to do more. And then if I were you, I would be reading as many books about how to start a company. The one thing that you have the benefit of that I never had when I started my first business. There was no web. I had to go out to a library and I had to go through page after page. There was no search engine. The search engine was called the librarian. You know? So the search engine was only as good as the librarian who I asked a question to. You go Google and ba-boom, you get 40 pages of information. Your job now is to turn lots of information into knowledge. And so I would read a lot. I would take as many courses as you possibly can. These courses are based off of the experiences of good entrepreneurs. They're not based off of the experiences of academics that sit in a room and develop theory, and I have nothing against theory. But they're based off of trying to deconstruct what a strong entrepreneur did to start their business. They're based off of case studies of businesses. And then we develop models that can teach you. And again, when, in the 1900s, there were no models. Nobody could go and tell you how to start a business. People just started businesses. So you're like in the best time in anyone's life to get out there and start a business. You can do it cheaper than a lot of people. You can do it faster than a lot of people. You have all these developer kits that you can start a mobile application with. People can build a mobile application. At Startup Weekend, some people got a beta application in 48 hours. So I would encourage you to, absorb as much as you possibly can. Have a strong appetite to learn everything you can, and you'll be successful. Yes?
You were saying an example about Google and Google business model.
Yes.
I have a debate. Maybe I can tell you the things that I'm thinking. Google is successful as a search engine, but if you look at it in Google Plus or Google Buzz,
right,
it's really an unsuccessful business. So I think we should know this because a lot of people,
Yeah, but you're forgetting a lot of other things.
Yeah.
You're forgetting Gmail. You're forgetting Google Maps, Google Earth. In other words, don't measure by what I don't want you to focus on is the failures. The reason why they're a great company is because they encourage their employees to just work on their own to develop things, and they're going to be probably more failures than successes. But what has driven that company is a great hunger for innovation. They allow their employees to steal time from their job to do hackathons, to do things where they're developing from their own ideas. You know who does this also that's not in the technology business? Starbucks.
Yeah. Facebook also.
Do you know that most of the products other than coffee at Starbucks were developed by employees at Starbucks who experimented in their spare time with a product, and Howard Schultz wanted to hear from them, and some of their best-selling products were invented by their employees.
It's the way the company works?
It's the culture of the company that drives breakthrough innovation. This is for large companies. But remember, there are large companies that can behave like small companies. I consult with Qualcomm. Qualcomm is the developer of the CDMA chip. Most of you have, if you have a Droid, if you have the Samsung machine, if you have the Samsung Galaxy in your hand, it's got a Snapdragon chip made by Qualcomm in it. Qualcomm has a venture fest every single year where I work with teams of engineers that are coming up with new ideas, and the company funds them. So when you're a little entrepreneur starting a business, if you're competing with the big businesses, there are big businesses that aren't going anywhere, and there are big businesses that are very entrepreneurial. So what I would encourage you to do is when you start your company, keep it entrepreneurial. It can't be entrepreneurial for a little bit and then it becomes bureaucratic. Keep it entrepreneurial. Always behave like you're small. Always behave like you're hungry.
This is flatten.
And keep a flat hierarchy. Right, don't get rid of hierarchy. Yes?
One thing that most people are encouraging entrepreneurs to do is to not focus on money from day one. And,
that's right.
As the example of Google, because they struggled for 3 years until they came up with their business model.
Right.
And the same goes with Twitter, etc. What I'm now here thinking about, measuring the value or for the income of your business, you cannot measure it as an entrepreneur from day one.
That's
just
correct.
have to go and release your software and then see the market, how they would perceive it. And then you could come up with your business model. So for the novelty here, the factor, is it the novelty of the idea itself or the business model? I could start a barbershop with the new business model way, like a barbershop that I saw in Indonesia.
I hope you do.
So the thing is the novelty factor in the business itself or the business model?
It's both the business and the business model. In other words, I get what you're saying. You're saying day one, how do I know this is going to be 100 million or more in sales? You don't need to know if your father's going to write the check. You don't need to know, because as I said, your father is love money. He doesn't care, he loves you. But if you want someone else to write the check, they want to know why you think it's going to be worth more. There's a general rule of thumb. Venture investors do not invest in businesses that can't achieve at least 100 million level of sales in 5 to 7 years. So if you can't tell me that you can get there and you can't defend why you're going to get there, you're going to need to use your family's money. You're not going to use OPM, other people's money.
Sure. And that's why most of the successful startups started from the garage and from bootstrapping. Then
Right.
When they proved the concept, they went to venture.
You're absolutely correct.
So your recommendation is this exercise helpful? I mean, the 1.1. Does it really matter to start thinking about this before launching the product or after launching the product?
No, it matters a lot. It matters a lot because, again, if you've got a known concept, then remember there's entrenched competitors in the market. They're not going to let you take a piece of their pie. They're not sitting back. Real smart managers, they may not be entrepreneurs, but I'm sitting at Domino's Pizza, and you're opening your pizza shop, and you think your pizza shop is going to be huge. You think I'm sitting still? When I'm aware of you, I'm watching you. And I'm going to make sure that if I can, I'm going to put you out of business. I'm going to squash you like a fly as quickly as I can. And by the way, I know a guy that runs a large company that describes it that way. Because what he's got resources to do, and he wiped out several of his competitors, is he drove down costs to the point that you couldn't compete. So he can issue coupons. He can do all kinds of things to drive you out of business. Because in a highly competitive space, which is the known space with large things, you've got a pie that's not growing very big. So in technology companies, the market might be growing 40% a year. It might be doubling in 2 years. That means the pie is going like this. The overall market size keeps going like this. You just have to get a piece of it. If you're in a market that's just gradually growing, in order to get market share, you've got to displace your competitors. And your competitors are going to be, you never underestimate your competitors. That's the worst mistake you can make. You have to assume that they're staying up at night thinking about how they're going to put you out of business. You know, companies, does anybody, and I'm blocking on a name, there used to be a portable video camera, HD, the flip camera. Do you know it doesn't exist anymore? Cisco bought it and they closed it down.
Do you know the Cisco guy is here, by the way? He can elaborate more.
They bought it and they closed it down. So, you know, the flip camera was a great product. I don't know why they closed it down. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought it was a great little device. Why did they go out, spend a ton of money to acquire a company that they closed down? It happens all the time. People, I know a venture capitalist that he goes up and he buys out his competition, and they either roll it into the company that he currently is investing in, or they just close the business down. Because what you got to stay up at night realizing there are people with deep pockets. And those people with deep pockets are thinking of every which way that they're going to kill you. And so you got to be faster, you got to be smarter than they are, which is why the best way to do it is, we call it, another great book to buy. Has anyone heard of Blue Ocean Strategy? Yes. Buy the book Blue Ocean Strategy. The top sell is what they call a red market, a red ocean. Why do they call it a red ocean? Because it's bloodied with all kinds of businesses that failed. So they say, look for blue oceans. Look for oceans in which there aren't lots of competitors. Don't go into a bloodied ocean where there's people, you know, there's fish that are killing each other and everything. Go toward markets where you're going to have a blue ocean. It's going to be a horizon that you can see, and you got lots of run room to make mistakes and things. Yes?
For the Cisco case, I think our management decided to not to go